We're here in Monte Carlo for the Rendezvous de Septembre. For AMBest TV, I'm Richard Banks. And I'm joined now by Mr. Ramaswamy, who's the Managing Director and Chairman of GIC. Good to see you again. Welcome.
Thanks, Richard.
So, an optimistic sense generally here in Monte Carlo this week. Does that tally with your thinking?
Yes, so what I've heard till now, most people are optimistic. The cat season has been a bit benign. But I have actually heard, different views there. So there have been a set of people who've said, yes, it's good to have, a benign season. Maybe, next 6 months would also be like that. But there are a few who are actually saying, you know what, we would actually want to have an event or two just so that the prices will not go down, which is, quite amusing to hear that, reinsurers today are actually wishing for a small event to happen so that they can get the kind of pricing they are looking for.
So a lot of the conversations that we have here center around that North American focus and their preoccupations. It's always good to talk to you because you have a different perspective. Tell us a little bit about how your thinking is different based on your geography and your exposures.
Yeah, so while most of the things that, we talk about are quite possibly the same, the climate change and, the resultant changes that we are seeing, the frequencies of loss, the, severity is going up. While that is true for us as well, I think as a developing country, I think the one biggest challenge that we have is that majority of the economic losses don't really translate into insured losses, right? So you have a huge situation where a maximum number of people don't really get any benefit of insurance, because they can't really afford it. So I think that is something which is, very, very different for us compared to some of the developing countries. So we need to ensure that we are able to develop good kind of solutions which will work for our part of the world.
And so what sort of tools do you need to work on those?
Well, different ways of looking at how we are going to manage that. So one of the things, good part is I think it's not something that's going to happen, by just talking to individuals. I think the government needs to get involved. And the good part is in India, we are seeing that the government is, greatly involved in this. We've been having regular discussions with them, trying to understand how we can manage these situations. Catastrophes are happening at an increasing frequency. So we need to look at solutions which will work for the entire populace. Again, like I said, it cannot be that, we go to each individual to try and, persuade them to buy. I think this needs to be done by the government. So we're looking at some kind of parametric covers. Advantage is you kind of sell it to the government for a, countrywide level. More importantly, when the claims happen, the claims can be settled at a much faster pace, which is what we are looking for. So these are things that we are talking about, parametric covers, covers that kind of combine a few, classes. For instance, we're looking at something called as a Bima Vistar, which is the regulator's brainchild, where we are combining, the property cover, the health cover, as well as the life cover.
Of course, GIC isn't just focused on India. You have international offerings as well. Tell us about some of the opportunities that you've identified.
So we are looking very positively. For instance, the last 18 months have been good. We all kind of acknowledge that the last 18 months have been good for the reinsurance market. We are looking to grow our international book. Till now, we were, consolidating what we had already written, trying to weed out loss-making treaties from our book. Trying to understand, from our risk perspective, from our risk appetite, which markets work for us. So I think now we are in a good position. Going forward, we would look to, grow our international book wherever we can, wherever the businesses look good. Obviously, we're looking very carefully at some of the businesses. The CrowdStrike loss which happened was obviously an eye-opener. Trying to learn from that and understand, how these risks can be managed, how do we manage our exposures in these kind of risks. So we look at it very positively. I think going forward, you will see that GIC is much more visible around the world.
Mr. Ramaswamy, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Richard, for having me here. Thanks.
For AMBest TV, I'm Richard Banks.